Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Q2 FY22 earnings conference call of Neogen Chemicals Limited. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star, then zero on your touchtone phone. Please note that this conference is being recorded. I now hand the conference over to Mr. Nishid Solanki from CDR India. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Neogen Chemicals Q2 FY22 earnings conference call for analysts and investors. Joining us on the call today are senior members of the management team, including Dr. Harin Kanani, Managing Director, Mr. Anurag Surana, Director, and Mr. Ketan Vyas, Chief Financial Officer. We will commence the call with opening thoughts from the management team, post which we shall open the session for Q&A, where the management will be addressing to any queries that you may have. Let me leave you with our standard disclaimer here. Certain statements made or discussed on the conference call today may be forward-looking statements. The actual results may vary from these forward-looking statements. A detailed disclaimer in this regard is available in Neogen Chemicals Q2 FY22 earnings presentation. I would now like to invite Dr. Harin Kanani to begin by sharing his perspectives on the performance and the progress that the company has made. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Nishid. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Q2 FY22 earnings conference call. I hope you had an opportunity to go through our result documents that were shared earlier and uploaded on Stock Exchange's website. I will take you through my views on the overall performance and key strategic drivers. Then our CFO, Mr. Ketan Vyas, will present you with financial overview during the period under review. During second quarter of this fiscal year, we demonstrated accelerated revenue performance, which were bolstered by high throughput levels at our plant with the contribution from our phase 1 expansion fully commissioned in September. Volume expansion came in despite several operational headwinds witnessed during the period under review. Our persistent focus on product and process innovation, as well as adherence to volume commitments made to our customer, has been our forte, and we will continue to reinforce this to deliver superior performance. Now let me quickly share some key financial data points. In Q2 FY22, revenue growth stood at 38%, while EBITDA grew by 33% and profit after tax improved by robust 51%. Growth in organic chemicals was 35%, while inorganic chemicals revenue increased by 63%. As you may recall, lithium prices had corrected in Q2 of last year, resulting in lower base. Prices were back to normal levels in Q2 FY22. Accordingly, we have estimated a positive impact of rupees 4.79 crore from pricing in our inorganic chemicals revenue in Q2 FY22. The rest has been driven mostly by volume growth. Moving on to some key developments, I am elated to share that we have fully commissioned our first phase of expansion in September 2021. This was also our first major expansion from ground up to a world-class state-of-the-art plant of specialty organic chemicals with focus on advanced intermediates, adhering to internationally followed best practices of safety and engineering protocols. This will significantly enhance our position in the chosen chemistries and will allow us to manufacture high-margin value-added products based on multiple process stage chemistries. Also, based on solid demand for our products, we advanced our phase 2 project expansion timeline and commissioned the same in October 2021. This was earlier planned to come on stream towards the end of the year. Within this, we are fully capable and ready to achieve our stated revenue guidance for the next couple of years. Now turning your attention to some exciting initiatives that we are undertaking in the lithium-ion battery materials and CSM space. The board has approved an initial capex outlay of rupees 35 crore, 50 metric tons per annum of electrolyte capacity for lithium-ion batteries, advanced chemistry cells, and developing a pilot facility to speed up process development, scale-up, and commercialization of specialty chemicals. We see number of projects with innovator customer increase with the commissioning of the Dahej plant, as well as overall site development at Baroda facility, which will be the main site for development of the lithium-ion related initiatives. The pilot electrolyte capacity for lithium-ion batteries is expected to be one of the first such plants in India and likely to be ready by end of Q3-Q4 FY23. This will enhance our total revenue potential to rupees 700 to 725 crores in FY24 based on the contribution of initial sales of electrolyte and development molecules from the pilot plant based on the new capex. This will be our initial investment in this area, and we are working with our customers to decide further capacity needed and timing for the same. This is in line with our focus of foraying into high potential segment of lithium-ion battery materials, on which we have been working with several customers over the last 2 years. As you may be aware, the government has announced 2 billion PLI scheme to support manufacturing and localization of advanced chemistry cell production units with focus on localization of supply chain, which is expected to benefit Neogen. Recently, on 22nd October, the global tender was also released, and the timeline for execution for the same has been more clearly defined. This supportive policy action by the government and recent global emphasis initiatives on climate change control and positive response to EVs in India as well as across the world, we are seeing more and more of our potential customers crystallizing their investment plan in this area. As per industry estimate, the production of lithium cells in India is expected to touch around 160 gigawatt hour by 2030 from negligible levels currently. This is expected to translate into the electrolyte demand of 50,000 to 70,000 metric ton by 2030 as per our internal estimates arrived at with customer discussions. This is a quantum leap in demand over next 1 decade. Our existing inorganic manufacturing capacities can further be expanded or modified to make internally the lithium salts and additives needed for the electrolyte, giving us the benefit of backward integration. Using our expertise for 30 years in lithium chemistry, we are confident of leveraging this opportunity, which will also significantly expand our addressable market size. I will now conclude by underlining the opportunities in the Indian chemical industry are immense, and Neogen will continue to deliver profitable growth performance that is driven by our recognized strength in niche chemistries. The focus will be to create sustained value enhancement for all the stakeholders while continuing to cement our leadership position. With that, I would request our CFO, Mr. Ketan Vyas, to share his views on the financial performance of Q2 FY22. Ketan, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Arun. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome on the call. I will share the key financial highlights for the second quarter of financial year 2021. All comparisons are on a year-on-year basis and refer to standalone financial performance. In Q1 FY22, our revenues increased by 30% to rupees 113.2 crores, largely driven by incremental contribution from phase 1 expansion. As you may be aware, the export incentives under RoDTEP were excluded for chemical and pharma industry by government in a notification issued in August 2021. Accordingly, a one-time charge was taken for reversal of benefit provision in FY21 and Q1 FY22 against the same, and accordingly, revenues for Q2 FY22 includes an impact of 1.2 crore. EBITDA improved by 33% to rupees 20.5 crore, translating to EBITDA margin of 18.1%. High utilization levels at our plant aided the EBITDA performance, notwithstanding several operational challenges witnessed during the quarter. Profit after tax stood at rupees 11.2 crore, higher by 51%, driven by strong contribution from key product categories and expanded capacity. Reduction in effective tax rate due to higher revenues from SEZ facility and higher tax benefit of tax depreciation linked to capitalization of the Dahej unit positively boosted profit after tax. In Q2 FY22, our domestic and export mix stood at 40% and 54% respectively. That concludes my opening remarks, and I now would request the moderator to open the forum for questions from participants.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Rohit Nagraj from Emkay Global. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity and congrats on the commissioning of phase 1 and phase 2 plus the development on the lithium-ion battery side. So the first question is on the electrolyte capacity. So in terms of technology, if you could just let us know whether the technology is our own technology or it is taken from someone else. And in terms of potential, you have said that 725 crores. Is this from the 250 metric tons capacity or something else? Thank you.
Hi Rohit, thank you for the questions. Just to clarify, the 725 is the total capacity for Neogen, where this 250 metric ton is going to contribute. So if you may recall in our previous call, we had given a guidance that the existing capacity is sufficient enough to serve 650 to 675 crore. So with this 35 crore capex, this can be increased by more or less close to around 50 crores, which also includes the lithium bit of the electrolyte business, as well as the pilot facility will also generate some revenue. So together that is going to increase to 700 to 725 crores. As regards to the technology that we are currently designing, so it's still under the final stages of optimization, and looking at the speed at which this is happening, many decisions will be running in parallel. So this is currently the technology which we are planning is designed in-house and it's our own technology.
Right, sir, got it. So the second question is on the long-term contracts. So we had earlier indicated that we have a revenue visibility based on the order book of about 60 to 80 crores for FY22. Yes. We still stick to that and we'll be able to meet up for FY22, right?
Yes. So the long-term contracts will contribute in that range of 60 to 80 crore in the current FY22 financial year.
Right, sir. Thanks so much and best of luck and Diwali wishes. I'll come back in the queue. Thank you.
Happy Diwali to you also.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Anshul Vardia from Edelweiss Wealth Research. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir, and congratulations on the good set of numbers. I have a couple of questions on the electrolyte capex with the companies undergoing. So one of them was answered by the previous question that 50 crore is the revenue opportunity which will come in FY24. So is it safe to assume that 25 crore will come in FY23 since the plant will be operational in the second half?
So this electrolyte is a developing story where finally we depend, at least within India, our customers commissioning and fructifying their plants. So as I mentioned in my opening remarks, with the PLI scheme which was first announced, people who were considering this have started working more in focus. Some of them have decided on the technology, some are still deciding the final technology of the cells which they are going to use, which will define the electrolyte, the specific electrolyte that they are needing and the composition of the same. So we are very confident that at least by FY24, that contribution will come. Also, the 50 crore which you added up, there is some contribution also coming in from the contribution also coming from our pilot facility as well. So that's the overall outcome of the 35 crore investment which we are setting up. But I think, for FY23, overall, since the Dahej plant has just commissioned, some customers have already approved and more customer approvals are coming. We would like as a management to wait up to Q4 where we can give you a better clarity on, the FY23, and in that we can also address how much contribution will come from electrolyte, as we will have a better clarity. But for sure by FY23, this pilot facility will fully contribute.
Thank you. That's helpful. So just one follow-up. First is how you plan to fund this capex incremental 35 crore, And second, I'm just trying to understand if this opportunity of lithium battery is such a big opportunity, then why, where we stand in comparison to other players, they would also be excited about this and they would also start with the capacity building up. So any thoughts on the competitive advantage we have in pouring into this particular business?
Your first question was how are we going to fund this 35 crore? So it will be a mix of our internal accruals and debt. And while there will be some time going for planning, so there will be some expense of that in Q4, but most of the expense or the fixed asset addition should happen in next year Q1 and Q2. So mostly it will be for next year. This year there will be a limited impact in terms of increase in gross block because of this. So that's answering your first question. Second is the competitive advantages which Neogen has. So the advantage when it comes to making electrolyte, so there are three aspects. One is the lithium salt, which is part of the electrolyte. So Neogen has been making lithium compounds. So the major contributing factor in an electrolyte is the lithium salt which is inside. And that is also the heart of it. And some of the additives which also happen to be lithium additives. So Neogen has now almost 30 years of experience in making this lithium salts. And some people also see a challenge to be able to source lithium because the world is expecting lithium to be in a tight supply situation. So I think Neogen's 30 years of experience of having worked with the top 2-3 companies in lithium, our experience to make very high purity lithium salts, where also we have to control ppm and ppb of impurities. This will help us first of all make this better. Also, as compared to other companies, Neogen has been already working on this for last 2.5 years, working both with international customers as well as domestic customers who are interested. So I think we kind of have a head start on that. Of course, there are global players who are also present who have been doing this. But there is also a very large demand globally, not just in India, but everywhere. So there could be some competition if the global players decide to come to India. But then over there, you would have the India advantage and being present here in India. And as compared to other domestic players, they could have their own advantages. But I think the Neogen's advantage will be the lithium backward integration, using lithium and making lithium for last 30 years, and having started 2.5 years ago to understand intricacies of all the aspects of this.
That's really helpful. So, sir, we can expect there can be some dedicated client-based plans coming up in the next 2-3 years if this scales up.
Yeah. So the idea is that we want to get started with this. So, we at least have almost like a commercial kind of plant, outside of laboratory, where it's a significant size, and then, you can multiply this or you can scale that up. So, for example, we make a plant for 250 metric tons. So we can say, okay, we can make it 4 times bigger and becomes 1,000, and then we can have 4 such lines or 3 such lines, whatever, depending on the volume. But I think once we've done it at that scale, we will have a better idea on detailed aspects of this technology. So first idea is to do that, and the second is also to demonstrate that we can do this. And then some of the customers have a requirement of this in the next financial year for their initial quantities. So the idea is also to cater to them, so they also get a better understanding and experience of using Neogen's material. And then as other customers come on board and have a better idea on the volumes, we can plan our capacities in that way.
Thank you, sir. Festival greetings and all the best for the upcoming quarters. Thank you.
Same to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Jain from Money Life Advisory. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. My first question is, can we expect a significant ramp up in revenue in the next 2 quarters since phase 1 and phase 2 organic capacity has now come online?
So yes, I would say there will be some increase in revenue. Again, there are some additional customer approvals, etc., also required. So the final, how much ramp up will be there will depend upon, how fast this customer approvals come. So sometimes we have to make some quantity, give it to customer, then customer has to do its testing. So it will depend on some of these aspects. But we are now confident to achieve the 450 crore revenue target, which we had estimated for this year, because roughly it requires us to do at least 125 crores in next 2 quarters, which seems doable with phase 4 capacity also available. So some revenue contribution coming from there, as well as phase 1 being fully available. So I would still keep 450 crore as my target, and then let's see how the customers and how Q3 goes, and then we'll have a better idea.
Secondly, in relation to the new capex, whom do you expect the major consumer of the product to be? Like, will it be the EV guys, consumer electronics, or the renewable energy players?
Maybe to better explain where we are in the value chain, let us say there is a EV vehicle maker, right, who's making EV. Now this EV maker buys batteries from someone, or some of the EV maker may choose to make their own batteries. Now, so that is happening even as on today. Now inside the batteries there are specific kind of multiple cells which are there. And these are what are called as advanced chemistry cells, or ACC in short. So these advanced chemistry cells are right now not produced in a significant quantity in India. They are imported from China, Taiwan, Korea, Japan, etc. So these will start getting manufactured. Now again, some of the EV companies may decide, because battery is supposed to be a significant cost of the machine, and they may make the cells also. And some might be independent cell and battery producers who will basically make this cell. Now for this cells, there are 3 main components, and you kind of given in our slide, different components in a cell, in which our focus is currently on electrolyte. So this is where lithium is present, and to some extent it is present in cathode. So these are the 2 areas, and our focus in there is electrolyte. So the person who makes the cells will be our target. Now of course the final batteries can be sold to renewable as well as to EV. Based on the current estimates which are industry available, EV volume is going to be much higher as compared to renewables, but it will also depend on how much renewables kind of pick up, and how the entire shift from non-renewable to renewable happens. But overall, as a final industry, the EV is likely to be higher consumer as compared to renewables as things stand, or the projections that we have seen from the battery manufacturers' point of view.
Okay. That's it from my side. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh from Asian Market Securities. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. So, Bosch, on this new capex, so have we already have some understanding with end customer for the supply of the initial 250 tons of the production?
Yeah, so there is at least part of the quantity has been, we have a clarity that still detailed technical evaluations are going on, but still for part of it we already have a clarity. Remaining, the customers are waiting from clarity from my side that when can I get it ready so they can give me better clarity. So this is what, once the board has approved, we will freeze our timeline and can have more meaningful discussion with our customers on their immediate requirement for the FY23 requirements. But yes, there should be some revenue contribution of this in FY23, and by FY24 for sure we will have this being used fully, and any additional volumes which we may have to add to kind of support the customer demand at that time.
Okay. And anything in terms of the timeline for the custom approvals, like even after your plant gets fully commissioned, what will be the timeline for the customer approvals so that we can go ahead with the further expansion?
This is the new area for us as well as for majority of customers, at least in India. With some of the international customers which I have talked to, the overall evaluation timeline can be 3 months to 6 months, even 9 months, depending on how stringent is the customer. But not all of that will depend upon my plant getting ready. I mean, some of the evaluations will also happen from the materials which I make in my R&D. So I would say 3 to 6 months post the plant becoming ready. It can be sooner, but that would be the normal expectation.
Okay. And the asset turnover will be similar to our inorganic segment?
So, currently we have just made investment into a relatively small size plant, or what we are currently planning. So I think it's too early for us to define the asset turns. And I think I would like to hold back answer on that till we have a better idea of a commercial plant capacity.
And one more finally on this capex. So you mentioned that you can also modify your existing inorganic plant. So going ahead, do we see the possibility that with a limited capex we can scale up the manufacturing of this lithium salts in our existing plant?
So yes, so one is making the electrolyte will require a dedicated facility, but the salts which are required for the electrolyte, we can modify our existing plants, or suppose depending on the quantity required, we may have to set up additions. But at least in the beginning couple of years, our existing plants with modification can make the salt, which will allow us to get the lithium salts required for the electrolytes up and running faster. In the meantime, get ready for the final electrolyte handling.
Oh, okay. And so this pilot facility which we are setting up, so is it for the existing molecules which are in the R&D stage or on the scale-up stage, or we are looking at the more newer molecules that will come through because of the this two expansion which just got completed?
Yeah, so we already have a pilot facility, but let us say there are 2-3 reactors in my Karakhadi plant, 2-3 reactors in my Mahape plant, which are doing these trials. But what we want to do is, because now with Dahej site coming in, as we had mentioned that there are many global international giants whom we were not communicating very strongly till our Dahej plant was ready. So as we approach this, we expect the number of projects that we will be handling will be much higher. And at such point of time, having this dedicated facility will help us speed up the developmental cycle, so that let's say future CSM business or advanced intermediate business, we can shorten the developmental time. So that's basically the purpose behind the pilot facility. Of course, it will also be equipped to make some of the lithium compounds or the new lithium salts also. So in some sense, it will support both these initiatives with that pilot facility.
Okay. And so just last bit on the for FY23. So what could be our revenue guidance? So can we achieve what we earlier guided for FY24 and FY23 itself?
Could you repeat the question? Sorry,
Yeah. So I was talking about FY23 revenue guidance. So can we achieve that 650-675 crore revenue in FY23 itself, given both the capex has commercialized in this year itself?
So again, I just answered one of the previous callers that I would wait till end of Q4 to basically give you a guidance for FY23, just because how long customers are taking to approve this site, and there are many moving pieces. So once we have a clarity on that, we can give FY23 guidance. But our the total capacity that we have is usable. Let's say it can generate 650 to 675 crores, and this new capex can add another 25 to 50 crores in FY24. So we are quite confident that at least by FY24 we'll have a capacity to reach 700 to 725 crores. And if the market conditions remain the same, most likely by FY24 we should have all the approvals in place to have a full utilization and generate that revenue. But for FY23, would like to hold till Q4.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Gupta from Solidarity. Please go ahead.
Dr. Harin, given the fact that this product, there could be a lot of demand for import substitution. This is something which we have a lot of experience in. What could be the gross margin you think for this new project vis-a-vis our existing business?
You mean for the electrolytes?
Yes.
Okay. So I think when it comes to electrolytes, especially at a commercial scale, what is really first important for us to know is what is the final stable volumes which we are going to make. So the first question Mr. Manish will have to answer is what is the volume, and at that volume what is the manufacturing cost, and what is the price which the customer is willing to pay as compared to international. So I think again it's a bit too early for me to define gross margins at this point in time. One more aspect in this is also very high fluctuating lithium prices. So how that lithium prices will also factor into the gross margins is a bit early for me to explain at this point of time. One more factor also is that how much we are able to go backwards. So for example, as I mentioned, whenever we will make, let's say the salt ourselves, because we are starting from bare lithium output of lithium carbonate or lithium hydroxide, the gross margins will be higher. If I was looking only at the electrolyte, where I was buying the salt from somewhere else, then in that case the gross margins would have been lower. So therefore, again I apologize, but if you can give me some quarters to understand this, and I'm sure before we announce a plan for bulk commercial volume plant, we'll have much better answer for this, but at present it's a bit difficult to predict.
Yeah, actually Dr. Harin, I'm not looking for specifics. I'm just trying to understand that the stuff, what we are doing on electrolyte from a complexity, from an innovation perspective, is it more value add vis-a-vis our existing business? So I'm trying to understand on first principles, are we doing more and more downstream stuff, or is it same in terms of complexity vis-a-vis what we do at present?
Okay, so in terms of complexity, let's say I would like to compare with lithium bromide, which we have been making for last 30 years. So this is something which is used in engineering as we make lithium bromide, and then there is a certain, when you say electrolyte, it's kind of a formulation which you are making for lithium bromide, where we have to control impurities, we have to control some parameters, and we also have to have some additives to give the properties which it requires for performance. So that would be my closest point of comparison. As compared to that, this is quite complex. So yes, we have an experience of that, but the criticality or the degree of impurities required or control which is required is much higher in case of the electrolyte. So from that point of view, yes, I would expect as compared to the lithium bromide sales to an engineering company, the electrolyte sales should have a better margins overall. But your earlier question was, gross margin. So that's the part which I'm right now not ready to answer, was whether the gross margins will be better or at an EBITDA level it will be better, or because of a higher value, let's say, what my expectation is that for an installed capacity or at a IRR level, it will be better. But yes, it will be more critical, and just as in engineering, once we tied up with the customer, we had those customers for 30 years. My hope is that if we can tie up with some such customers now, it will basically establish a very long-term relationship. Because like engineering, even in this case, the end users are not chemical companies. So they are actually looking for somebody to also bring in knowledge and experience from a chemistry point of view. So I think that's the role which, with our experience we can try to play. And if we do it successfully, it can be a very long business for Neogen, just as lithium bromide, which started in 95, still is for us.
Okay, very clear. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Nilil Kuge from HDFC Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Dr. Harin.
Good afternoon.
Yeah. Doctor, see, my question is on this 250 metric ton electrolyte capacity. So, can you just elaborate on the competitive or the competition landscape from the domestic as well as the international players? And definitely, there must be some international players who are currently ahead of Neogen, right? And where do we stand in terms of the niche to compete the global player as well as the domestic players?
So I think, to some extent, let's say when we are talking of the international players, yes, I mean, these international players have been making this and supplying this for many years. So they have a better experience. To the best of my understanding, majority of them, the lithium salt producer is different and the electrolyte maker is different. So one thing which Neogen is doing different is we are doing it all in one shop, right? So some of the things or some of the decisions which we make in our lithium salts can help my final electrolyte formulation, and there's a better coordination. So I think this is one. Second is that right now they have many opportunities. So they have opportunities in Europe, they have opportunity in US with the speed at which the entire world is moving. So, how much is their interest or how much resources they can give it to India, which also requires within a time, because India also wants to grow. So, that's also another question, that will they have the India focus, or would they, how attracted they would be for India? So that's the second. And the third is, they would have to start from scratch to set up the facility. So whether they can meet the timelines of the customers, because the customers want it, let's say, by a certain date. Whereas we having existing facility, we having, this backward integration into lithium, all of these will help us to kind of do this, speed up the process and hopefully meet customer requests faster. Having said that, we believe, there will be some competition or some of it might be imported, how much will be in India. So I think all of these will develop over next 2 to 3 years and we'll have a greater clarity. But this is the advantage which I see over international players. And over domestic, I guess I would say what I repeated earlier, that just the fact that we are doing lithium for last 30 years, we've been working on this for last 2.5 years. And as I mentioned also in my document, we already are in touch with some 8 or 9 customers. But this is too early to call, so I don't know what other domestic companies who are thinking about this doing and how far ahead they are. So I can just guess that these are the things which gives Neogen at least some edge to basically have a play in this area.
Okay, thanks. And my second question is on our existing business. See, in our last interaction, you mentioned that you are negotiating with 8 to 10 clients and the molecule size is close to 25 to 60 crore per annum. Yes. So with now phase 1, phase 2 already commissioned, so at what stage current the negotiations are, and highly likely what are the chances that you may announce the contract or anything in next couple of quarters?
So, I would like to announce, but the question is, I don't know. I mean, see, it happens when it happens. What I would say is that yes, things are moving along. As I mentioned earlier, some of the ones who had tried pilot has now given us a first commercial order for trials. Some of the ones which were in R&D has given us a pilot order. So things are moving along. But it's a little bit difficult for me to predict again FY23. I would like to again do that by Q4 of this year to predict FY23. But I still keep my guidance that FY24 we will try to have at least 20% of the revenue kind of coming in from CSM. So that's a growth which I'm expecting. But when can I announce? When will it happen? Who it will be? What will be the size? I mean, these questions I'm not clear enough right now to answer with certainty.
Okay, fair enough. And my last question is on the current, on the balance sheet. The short-term debt has gone up, if I compare that with the end of FY21 number, and it has gone up to 1.3 billion from just 0.8 billion. Do you think the overall debt will increase further from the current level by end of this financial year? Or what is your view?
So Ketan, would you like to answer this?
Yeah, as we look at our projections for the next 6 months, and given the volumes that we will achieve in next 6 months, and term and the expansion what we spoke on the little bit on lithium, I think our total debt should be around less than 300 crores. And short-term debt will look around at a similar level or maybe marginally upward to meet the meet the growth of the revenues that we will take forward.
Okay. Thanks, Ketan. Thanks, Dr. Harin. That's all from me.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have any follow-up, may we request you to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Gaurav Chopra from Union EMC. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks for taking my question. So I just had one question again on this lithium opportunity. So in your presentation, you have sort of mentioned in one slide that what is the composition of the cost of battery in terms of cathode material, in terms of electrolyte. You also mentioned that what are you going to do in terms of so basically you mentioned that electrolyte, lithium salts, specialized cathode materials. Just wanted to understand from the opportunity perspective, what could be the opportunity size for Neogen in this total cost of battery?
Hi, thanks for the question. So, from, as you see, currently our focus and the clarity that we have is on the electrolyte segment. So, that electrolyte which generally contributes between 8 to 10% of the cost of the final cells. Now, so that is what is basically we are clearly targeting. When it comes to cathode, there is one cathode material which is very commonly used or most popular is a category called NMC. So far we have not worked any on that, but there are some specialized cathode materials which we are working on, but they are relatively in an earlier stage of development, and we don't have also clarity as a whole that how much of the material will be used for, how much of the industry use will be for NMC and how much for the cathode materials that we are targeting. So I think if for now, when we are thinking of it in terms of the business volumes, we are largely focusing on electrolytes, and this is where we currently are. I think as we mentioned in our presentation and in my opening call, the total demand by 2030 is expected to be in the range of 50,000 to 70,000 metric ton if the 160 gigawatt hour capacity is put in place. Now again, based on lithium prices, these electrolyte prices also change, and it's a bit early to kind of predict in terms of how much crores it is. But it will be in few thousands of crores by 2030. More important question from an immediate point of view is how it is going to ramp up and will it reach the 160 gigawatt hour which has been projected. So I think those are the questions on which we will get a clarity in next 1 or 2 years.
Got it. So just one question from my side again. So you mentioned that the majority of the capex will sort of follow in the 1H of FY23. So is it safer to assume that if you do get contracts, if this capacity do sort of ramp up in the way it is being projected, it is easier for you to scale up the plants for the electrolyte?
So I didn't understand your question. Can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah. So basically you said the majority of capex for this project is going to happen in 1H of FY23. So basically the amount taken to sort of commercialize this plant is appearing slightly low. So my point is, in case this capacity for lithium cells sort of scales up the way it is projected to, from your side, you will be able to ramp up your capacities as well in a shorter span.
Yes. So I think most of the investment that we are currently doing is for a relatively very small capacity, right? 250 metric ton per annum is relatively a very small size. Again, it's a chicken and egg situation that there was not complete clarity from the customers. But in spite of that, as I mentioned two answers, at least there were one or two customers who said, we are going to have some initial trial runs or a trial plant which is going to require so much quantity. So based on that, we've at least gone ahead and taken a decision. Now, based on my understanding and with the level that we are prepared, when my customer starts making a plan for making this cells, even if I start at that time making a plan for the electrolyte, my time will be shorter than the plant which is going to come up for manufacturing the cells. So as and when my customer basically makes the final investment decision and breaks his ground for setting up the plant, I will be faster than them. Okay, so so therefore I don't expect much of a challenge, and we are in very close communication with many of these customers trying to understand their need. They also understand Neogen's capabilities, appreciate Neogen's so many years of experience. So yes, I mean, we will have time to expand to meet the larger demand, of our customers.
Got it.
I hope I answered that. I answered your question.
Yeah. Thanks. So just last question from my side. So you've also mentioned in your presentation that you are in discussion with some potential manufacturers, including overseas players. So the tied-up capacity which you have just talked about, are these domestic players? They're overseas players.
The capacity, what you mentioned, sorry, could you repeat?
The capacity which you said that partly tied up for your customers' R&D initial quantity.
So there's a domestic player, and we are in more advanced discussion with one of the domestic international player as well for that.
Got it. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thanks for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Reminder to the participants, please limit your questions to 2 per participant. Should you have any follow-up, may be requested to rejoin the queue. The next question is from the line of Ranjit Cirumalla from B&K Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi sir. Thanks for providing this opportunity and congratulations on your foray into lithium. Again, circling back to the lithium thing, so just wanted to understand how immune would we be for the disruption that is likely to happen in this particular technology. So how should one view that irrespective of the disruption in the technology, probably the lithium salt would still be needed, and to that extent Neogen would be secured?
So Ranjit, thanks for this question, and this has been a question which we've been also asking ourselves last 2 years. And one of the things which we were waiting for, is customer clarity. So with higher interaction with the customers, with what we have talked, there seems to be quite a consensus that because of the property of lithium for having the highest charge to weight ratio, at least for EV, lithium will always be in the play. What form of lithium, liquid electrolyte, solid electrolyte, different things which are happening, which can happen, but the lithium will be required, lithium salts will be required, and at least for next 4 to 5 years, people are thinking that the existing mix which we are targeting is going to remain. So for next 4 to 5 years, the existing chemistry is likely to rule. There are some new things which are happening, but by the time they are first of all tested, then have a kind of a smaller launch test, then somebody internationally who understands this technology well actually puts it for use, and then for example India starts to put it for use. That's going to be at least 4 to 5, 6 years period. So even if the chemistry changes, we'll be able to kind of have enough time to adapt to that different chemistry within lithium set. I think, the only other technology which people talk about are flow cells and sodium-based batteries, or like in the battery space. Again, they are mostly people are considering for renewable, where the weight is not, supporting the batteries for renewable. where weight is not such a big issue. But for EV still, I think large consensus is that it's going to be the lithium-based batteries so far. So, and anyway, but like, this is also on our mind. So currently the commitment of capex which we are doing is very limited. And whenever we do broader, larger capex in future, we would also want some kind of a customer assurances to, minimize the risk on Neogen if at all the technology were to change very fast. I hope it answers your question.
Yes, sir, it does. Thank you very much for that. Follow on to that, you mentioned that you are working with 8-9 players or the customers who have expressed interest in the advanced chemistry cell. So in the event we do go ahead, would customers like only one supplier, or is we like free to kind of procure for Neogen who is also supplying to his competitors? How the dynamics going to work in that place?
So if I look at the international business, both things happen. Mostly it's one-on-one relationships, but sometimes some companies do have, the cell producers do have multiple suppliers. So we'll see how it works in India.
Sure, sir. One final question, if I may. Now with the electrolyte and the EV thing also kind of gaining traction, and we have the CSM side. So how is your time going to spend on these two new fast-growing activities?
So Ranjit, so far my time was majorly behind getting Dahej plant started, because that was my biggest worry, because that's something Neogen's one of the biggest investments we've made. So ensuring that they are put to use productively was my largest time. Both CSM and lithium will remain my focus, will remain Neogen's focus. Even in terms of my R&D, still, CSM bit is taking more resources. But from my time point of view, I think because we have a team in place, like, our VP R&D or our site manager or our VP business development, who already have a good understanding of CSM business already. There's enough expertise within Neogen for CSM. So I think my time hopefully will be going more towards lithium ion battery than for CSM. But we'll see. Again, sometimes lithium ion is future and CSM requires something today. I have to be flexible and will be flexible that way.
Sure, sir. Thank you for addressing my queries. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Keshav from Raxan Investors. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thanks a lot for taking my question. Sir, for the two innovator multi-year contracts we have, are these products scaling up at the innovator end? Are these off the pre-launch phase and fully commercial?
Yes, so both of these are now commercial. So one of them, if you recall, is a US-based pharma customer. So the pharma customer has already launched the product in US, and they are expecting also launch in Europe and Japan shortly. Similarly, the agro customers so the agro customer also has made the final product out of that. I'm not fully aware whether it will hit the market this year or next year. They have not shared that information with me. But basically, both of these are commercial and have been used by the customers now, and the volumes will ramp up.
So, sir, you mentioned in one of the previous calls of assured offtake clause you have with them. It's a multi-year contract, and so for the products that are yet to launch. So, is there a kind of risk that they might not end up doing as they've planned?
So, yes, if they have in this particular case, both of them have launched the product, and there is always that risk, but very rarely, to the best of my experience, most of these companies have invested billions of dollars to reach to that stage where they are at launch. So they don't give up without clarity for 3 years or 5 years at least. Maybe I can ask Mr. Srinath, who has years of experience in this, to answer this. So, Srinath, would you like to add?
Yeah.
No, Arun, as you rightly mentioned, all these investments, they are multi-billion-dollar investments done by customers, and these investments are done in phases. They do investment in research, they do investment in data generation. In pharma, they do investment in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 clinical trials. In agrochemical, they spend money on regulatory approvals in each country. So all this money is never ever spent without having a very, very clear visibility about the efficacy or any adverse effect of the product or anything like that. So a product just dropping off the cliff is a very, very, very rare occurrence. I mean, theoretically it can happen, but it's a very rare occurrence. And these companies are very careful about making these very large scale investments. So while an assured offtake actually means a take or pay, right? So nobody gives a take or pay kind of contract, but it's a very, very remote possibility that they would just stop suddenly.
Sure.
Okay, that's yeah.
And so just to add to that, from our side, these reactors can be used for our own other molecules also. Worst case scenario, okay, we may have some time to adjust, but we can make our own molecules. And wherever we had specific equipment which were designed specifically for this product, we've kind of taken an assurance from the customer that suppose if they don't complete the contract, then they kind of pay us to the unutilized portion for this equipment. So to that way, some kind of a comfort has been taken from the customers.
Yeah, but most of these plants are fungible.
Yeah.
Really helpful, sir. Sir, recently I came across the mention of an industry trend in the CDMO space, like especially pharma. I'm not sure about agri, about innovators asking for multi-capability CDMOs to provide the entire basket of services. So it's I wanted to have your view in it. Like if we go through the vertical chain, now the product would move from different stages, intermediates onto the API. So do you feel that despite of this ask from the innovators to consolidate the supply chain, an intermediate manufacturer like us would rarely graduate to the API level, and the API guy would not find as much value to completely backward integrate? And would there be sort of an equilibrium somewhere in between?
I think I'm not specifically aware of the specific trend or the discussions which you are referring to. But just looking at a business point of view, I think most of the times if a innovator is making this ask, it's to do with the questions where they have seen supply chain disruptions and customer wants to make stability of supply. So suddenly a Chinese company stops. So because of that, a API producer is not able to meet it, then the customer insists that, hey, you should be able to make this on your own if needed. So I think, so as long as we are a reliable supplier, the customer would still want to continue for us to working on this at an intermediate level or advanced intermediate level. And from whatever discussions I've had, I've seen, like especially in Europe, more and more companies wanting to get advanced intermediates from China, as far as I can tell. So I think, at least from a Neogen perspective, there should not be a very big disruption. And the biggest difference between us and a final API producer would be a completely US FDA approved site versus a site which has been, following US FDA norms, which has been audited by the customer. So I think there's a little bit of differential between the two sites also. So we suddenly can't from tomorrow start making API, and API company, when it has an option of making APIs which is already under demand, would not want to make intermediates or KSM with a very short notice unless it has a supply security issues. So this is just my views on that, but I think let's see how it progresses.
So one last thing, are we being conservative when we forecast the 650 CR top line? So is it potentially the minimum or maximum, or it's our expectation to reach this level and sort of gradually increase utilizations? Because we already did 270 crore of revenues in organic in FY21, and I can understand that newer capacities would be more for AI and CSM and more of dedicated facilities. But are we saying that 650 is the max we can do, or more like we'll start from this, but potentially can scale more from the same capacities in the years to come?
From the same capacity will depend upon, how the product mix that we ultimately land on, the percentage of, reactor capacity needed for a unit dollar, for a metric ton is required, or per value of the final molecule is required. So yes, what we feel is that if my reactors are used, we should be able to get 650 to 675 crore based on the mix of molecules which we have in target. Okay, like for example, if I were to do only bromine derivatives, it could be slightly higher in terms of revenue, but then margins may have some other impact. So this is kind of a mix. So it's neither the minimum nor the maximum. Okay, with the existing capacity, that what we can do. And again, as we stabilize more, we will have an idea on what is the maximum we can get out of the existing capacity.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will take the last question from the line of Dhavan Shah from ICICI Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, sir. So I have one question, and that is related to the base business. So we have seen, the price increase for the bromine from China by around 2x. So how is that affecting our base business? Is there any positive impact in terms of the international business inquiry for the advanced bromine intermediates? Because I think the domestic bromine prices are almost at the same level, if I'm not wrong. So can you please share thoughts on that?
Yes, so we have seen, for example, lot more interest from our international customers in last 1 month, since at least a news article came that Chinese bromine prices have doubled, or have not doubled, but at least have increased significantly. Now, China sometimes go through this cycle, so we'll have to see, first of all, how much stable this is, whether it's short term versus it's long term, because unlike India and Europe, China tends to be a month-to-month very high variable market. They don't have this annual contracts kind of a concept that we have, or they fix a volume and do it. So sometimes the spot prices can be a bit misleading. So we'll have to watch that. But yes, the immediate effect of that is that several international customers who were also relying on China and India have told us that, hey, you have new capacity, can you give us some more quantities? And we are also trying to see, because most of these customers would require full commitment for next year. So we also are talking to our suppliers, get a view of next year, and see whether the customer would be interested with the new prices. But the immediate outcome is, yes, we are getting more inquiries about business. We'll get to know next quarter.
And so China, are they into advanced bromine intermediates also, or they are mainly into the bulk business?
So actually, I call three. One is bulk bromine derivative, which is the flame retardants and the water treatment, oil field, etc. So that is what I call as bulk. Then I call as specialty bromine derivatives, which are like, which basically don't have a demand of more than 1,000, 2,000 tons per annum. And third, what I call is advanced intermediates, which we make. So when we talk of advanced intermediates, we talk of more molecules made which can be bromine or non-bromine using this specialty bromine derivatives. So I would say China is in all three spaces. Yes, they are present in bulk bromine also, they are there in specialty also, and to some extent they are there in the advanced intermediates also.
And we are witnessing demand from which space because of this thing?
So we are not into bulk, so I wouldn't know the answer on that, but we are seeing inquiries on the specialty bromine space, because that's the place where we have done, where there's an immediate impact of bromine price. At an advanced level, the impact of bromine sometimes gets a bit limited, because there are other factors which contribute more other than bromine.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. I now hand the conference over to the management for their closing comments. Over to you, sir.
Thank you all the participants for joining the call. I hope we are able to satisfactorily respond to your questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to contact our investor relation team, CDR India, and we will address them. Wishing all the participants festival greetings. Happy Diwali. Stay safe. Thank you again, and we look forward to connecting with you in the next quarter.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Neogen Chemicals Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you all for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.